Week 50, here we go. Oh my goodness me. Time is just a flying. So this week, thought we'd do something a little bit different. One of my first loves when I first started stitching and doing embroidery was working with paper. I absolutely love stitching onto paper. So what we're going to do today is we're going to combine paper and fabric and a technique, really. You're going to need some paper. I've got loads of old like envelopes and paper ephemera, and it could be pages from a book, it could be absolutely anything. You're going to need a little bit of iron-on interfacing. So this has a glue on one side. You don't have to use this, but it's going to make your life a little bit easier if you can do. And a little bit of Bonder web. I'll go through all the technique, but obviously you're only needing little bits. You don't need to go out and buy lots and lots and lots. You can do it without the two, and I will explain what you can do just to make your life a little bit easier if you haven't got the same equipment. I'm gonna just get a piece of cardboard, she says. Piece of cardboard, come on cardboard, where are you? Oh, there we go, because I've pulled the blind down because the sun's just decided to come out, but I don't particularly want to put the whole blind down because, well, it just makes you kind of sad when there's a bit of sunshine. Right, there we go. So fold that in half. Pop that there. You need your vitamin D, even though I'm not outside. Oh, there we go, that's better. Right then, so job number one. I am going to put my interfacing, on the back of my paper. So I like that particular bit there. So what I'm going to do is just open up my envelope a little bit because it's not quite long enough. When I've laid my tag template on, it's just not quite long enough. So I want to open it up a little bit. Okay. Right, there we go. Let's trim that. Okay, so I'm just going to iron that onto the back of a piece of paper. So when you're using the iron-on interfacing, just pull that a bit further forward, what you need to do is feel the rough side. So the rough side is the side it just has a glue on it. So what I'm going to do is I've got my trusty little iron. So I've got that. Over the top, just iron that on. And all this is going to do, it's going to make, because it's quite a fragile bit of paper, it's just going to make using that a little bit easier. So what we're going to do is we're going to weave our fabric and paper together, and then I'm going to do something to the middle. Well, this is my plan. Hopefully it will work. So what I want to do is I'm going to do it just a little bit bigger than my flag, just so then I can trim it afterwards. Okay, this is another one of these ones where in my head it's going to work. Don't know if it is or it isn't. We'll have to see. So I've got myself then some fabric, and we're going to weave with this as well. So what I want to do with my fabric is cut myself a piece, again just a little bit bigger than my flag. Oh no, actually I'm going to do this flag size. Okay, so you could use a rotary cutter or a knife, whichever you have got to hand, or a pair of scissors, obviously. Okay, oops. So my piece of fabric is going to be the same size as my flag template. Now I know some of you have got some quite interesting shaped flags this year. So you're going to have to really think as to how you could make this work. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my cutting mat as a little bit of a guide, and I'm going to cut slots in my backing fabric. So I'm going to do it at a centimetre, every centimetre, and I'm going to go about half a centimetre in. There we go. Move it along. Half a centimetre in. Keep going all the way down my flag. Having one of those days today where when I got up this morning, this is what I was going to do, and it's got to about 1 o'clock because I just wasn't feeling it this morning. I don't know if anybody else gets like that sometimes. You get up with the intentions of what you're going to do. I think it's probably because this morning when I got up it was absolutely bouncing it down. It's not now, you wouldn't know it had rained. But I think you get up, you think, right, I'm going to get on with something, and then when you actually sit down, you just think, oh, I'm really not feeling it today. But one of the things that I always say is if you're having one of those types of days, give yourself a little bit of a break. That's quite important. To give yourself a bit of a break and not be too hard on yourself. And then just do something a bit later on. Right, so you can see I've got all my little lines there. So what I need to do now is I'm going to trim this. Okay, I'm going to trim it to the side of my flag. And then I'm going to start taking slices out of it. Oops. And weaving it. So if your paper's thick enough, you don't have to put the interfacing on the back. I've just put the interfacing on the back because my paper was really fragile and I was just a little bit worried. It's not very straight, huh? Just a little bit worried about it falling to pieces, really. So I'm going to start in the middle. And cut myself a strip. Now I'm going to do my strips about half a centimetre. I'm going to leave that on the board, grab my strip, come back to my flag, and then because I'd started in the middle, I'm going to weave it. Oops. Up. So it's just backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. There we go. So there's my first one. First one in. Then do your next one. And then you just do your alternate weaving. So now this is when it gets to the bottom of your flag, you'll have to decide where you want it to be as to where you've done a cut. So I've got a cut there, so this one is going to come in underneath that one and then over the top. Oops. And underneath. So we're not going to be doing, I don't even know, don't think I'm going to be doing any stitching this week, so that'd be quite nice just to do a bit of manipulation. I love doing stuff like this. Just playing with different types of materials. See what they can do. Right, so decide where that one's going to go. And then just going to butt this one up next to it. So they want to be right next to each other. And then it's just a case of lining them up. There we go. There's that one across. There we are. I quite like how it breaks up things. Breaks up the patterns. So I'll do on the other side. So you could go for a really contrasting paper if you wanted to. So that's under, over. Or it could be something, I don't know, they could have relevance to each other. I just quite like, I like using the French papers. I think as well because one of the reasons that I loved using paper before was I really liked that idea of upcycling everything and that it had had a previous life. There we go. Right, so I can get one more in there. And you could do these different thicknesses. So that one's going that way. So yeah, you could do slightly thicker, thinners. Obviously depending on your shape, as I've just mentioned, it'll depend on how you have to manipulate, how you do this. It might be that you do something square or circular that goes onto your background shape. But I'd be very intrigued to see how people translate this one, especially if you've got, I know some people are doing flower shapes and heart shapes. Some people are doing this onto a bigger piece. So that'll be interesting to see if you can actually weave maybe the papers directly onto your background. Right, so I've got this line here. So the line that was in my paper, if I line the line up, then I know that they're all going to be next to each other. I don't know whether I might do a little bit more of a cut on there. Let's see if I can get a thinner piece just in at that edge. So that goes under. Right. Let's wiggle it across. There we go. I might just get another little slice in just at this edge. It helps as well with that little bit of interfacing, just to keep your paper from scrunching up. If you haven't got any interfacing, what you can do is just glue two pieces of paper together. So it just makes it that little bit thicker. Right, there we go, that's better. Okay, right, scrunch these, I'll get them nice and tight with each other. I'm quite enjoying this. So if you use a line of your text, or if there is a line like I've got here on my piece, it just means then you know that you're getting this all lined up. Okay, let's keep going. So that goes over. Gets a little bit trickier as you're going further across because your fabric is going to become a little bit more sturdy because of the other bits that you've already woven into it. And my idea then is when we've done this, we're actually going to do something else to it. And I'm hoping it's going to work. Because if it doesn't, then I'm going to have to redo this. But hopefully it will work. Right, so probably get one more in there, just a little bit, maybe go a little bit thicker. There we go. over, under. You have to talk to yourself when you're doing this in over, under, over, under. Oh. Come on, you know you want to. There we go. Last one, under. There. Okay. Right, so what I need to do now is get them all lined up. The question now is, can I fit another little one, maybe? Just extend that just a tiny bit. How would that go? Over. Tiny bit there. Right. Tiny slither. This one might be quite tricky to get in, so we'll see how we do. Over. Under. Oops. I quite like this like it is. I'm just busy thinking about what I had planned to do next. I don't know if it's going to work. Come on. You know you want to go through. There we go. It's got a little frayed bit. Over, under, over. Oh, that's worked out perfect. She says. Come on, in you go. There we go. Awesome. Right, line them all up. Okie dokie. Right, so what I want to do now is my Bonder web. I'm going to cut out a flag shape. So to stick it all down, this is going to get bonded onto the back of my flag, because then this will hold it all in place. So again, if you don't have any Bonder web, just cut yourself out a template in paper and just glue that onto the back. Usually use Bonder web to attach this to another thing, and it might be I end up gluing it onto another piece of fabric, but I just wanted it so that it was going to fix all this down. So that's there. Pop my little flag on the back. There we go. Grab my iron, move my cutting mat. I want to iron my cutting mat. So if we trim that so it's exactly the right size. Iron that on. So that I know that that has glued it together. There we go. Right, and then I can trim it. Oops. go, paper and fabric. Now my plan originally was I was going to cut a circle out and then rotate the circle slightly, but I'm not going to do that because these haven't been glued down. Actually, probably what I should have done with the paper was put the paper on Bondaweb. I don't know. Anyway, I quite like it like that. I don't think I need to do anything else to it. I quite like that. It's a bit different. A little bit different from previous ones, which I like. I do like the fact that things do change slightly. Even though I've got a plan in my head, you all know by now that sometimes my plans work, sometimes they don't work. So my extension to this piece I've decided not to do. Mainly because I think if I do it, it's all going to fall to pieces. And I don't really want that to happen. So that's going to go on there. And I quite like it. I think it's lovely. Quite like the different patterns. And the contrast. I love the contrast of... Oh, I can iron that on. I love the contrast of paper and fabric. Totally different. Again, you know, when we're busy talking about contrasts, very textured. This is textured, but is quite flat. So the easiest way to get your Bondaweb off the back is just get to the edge and just rip it, and it'll just lift up that paper. And what that'll do is it'll leave the glue on the back. Totally forgot I'd done this. I hadn't forgotten I'd done it. I don't want to. I'm just talking a little rubbish. I think the sun's gone to my head. Right, that's rubbish. Right, I'm just going to get a piece of fabric and just pop that over the top while I iron it on. Don't really want to do it straight onto that piece. There we go. That's a jolly bit of fabric. Back in the stash. There we are. Week 50. Oh no, my 5's dropped off my little peg. There we go. So we've just got 2 more to go then after this one. So I can't wait to see what we end up doing. And I will see you same place, same time next week. See you later. Bye.